Hey everybody, how are you doing? Hey, sorry we're a little late. We're on the phone making deals happen.
Man.
What were you doing? You were talking to bankers, right? Lenders?
Yeah.
What are they telling you?
Um,
Is it for our deals or for some of our
some
students?
of our students.
All right.
Right.
But we had a couple interesting calls this morning.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. Actually, can potentially change a few things for us the way we raise some money too. So make the returns a little bit better for our investors, and hang a bigger noose around your neck.
Absolutely. Sorry, I like big nooses. It's kind of fit my big head there. That's got going on. Now, hey, listen, thanks for everybody joining us today. It's Multifamily Monday. We are here for you. We're here to answer your questions. We're here to get those multifamily what ifs out of the way and get you started, right? We're here to help offer mentorship. Everybody has mentors. Somebody has a mentor. Your mom and dad were your very first mentors. They taught you what you needed to know to get into life. Then maybe your teachers or your professors became your next mentors. And then maybe you had a boss or you had a coworker. Well, if you were trying to get out of that game, you're trying to find a real estate career, you need a real estate mentor. You need someone that's been where you want to go. And that's what we're here for today. We're here to talk to you a little bit about multifamily, a little bit about what's going on in the world, a little bit about what's going on at Rockstar Capital, and see if that'll get you a little juiced up to maybe start your own path towards real estate riches.
Yeah, there's so many things that have been going on too. Just today, I mean, it's interesting. We look outside right now, and we got tropical storm Beta coming on right now. Right, all these things that are just uncertain in life. Right, all the winds and things, and all the unique things that are going on. The market's down somewhere between 2% and 2.5% today. I mean,
Again,
yes.
Again, it's like the third, fourth day in a row.
I mean, stability of just things that just is all over the place.
So you know what? You've got to be a little shell shocked because if you were in the stock market like I used to be 15 years ago, that up and down will crush you. It will crush your soul because it's all your money, right? Because you don't have any other investments. Mom and dad said put it all into the stock market. Your teachers, your professors, TV. Find Charles Schwab. Find Goldman Sachs. Find somebody and put your money into the market. But they send you out there without any real education on what you're investing in and what to expect. They didn't tell you about the down days. The way I look at the stock market is like gambling. When you go to the craps table in Vegas or wherever you like to go, and you shoot those dice, you have no idea what's coming. That's kind of what happens in the market. You wake up every morning, you have no idea what's going to happen that day. Somebody sniffs the wrong way, somebody sneezes, somebody moves around, somebody says something, somebody dies, and the world craters. That doesn't happen in multifamily investing. And it doesn't happen in single family investing either. If you went to bed last night owning 4,000 units and everybody was paying rent, you woke up this morning with 4,000 units and everybody was paying rent. If you went to bed last night and you have a three single family housing and you collect the rent on the first, guess what? You still collect the rent on the first. That's the stability of real estate. I'm not a fan of this up and down the stock market. What about you?
No, I mean, it's one of those interesting things. If it's something I don't understand, I don't put our money into it. Right? We don't know what we're doing. We just don't invest into it. And so that's one of the things we love about real estate because we're in this day in and day out, and we've educated ourselves, and we know how to operate. We know how to perform with it. We're comfortable putting our own money into the deals that we do. So
I remember every stock that I've ever bought, every mutual fund I ever bought, every bond I ever bought, every CD I ever bought, somebody told me to buy it. I didn't know to buy it. Somebody had to educate that to me, which means they had a reason for wanting me to buy that. Probably a stockbroker, or maybe I got a tip from somebody. But what was your education? Do you remember your very first thing you bought? What was it? Probably your 401k mutual funds?
Oh gosh, no, I was I matured early on that. So I was probably actually, you know what? It was Boston Celtics stock. It was back in the day. It was back in the day when they were actually publicly traded, the Boston Celtics, and it was because I love basketball, and I was like, oh, I'm going to go invest in that. I think I had like $500 I could probably put into it. I bought it. I think I sold it for maybe $510 or something.
That's a great story. I'm jealous actually. I didn't have that. Nobody told me to buy Boston Celtics stock. My dad worked at Whataburger. He worked at fast food chain. He did it for 40 plus years, and he showed me all he could do. But investing in the stock market wasn't one of those things. I remember during the Great Recession, he had around $700,000 before the crash. The crash came, and it came crashing down on him to around 350, 400,000. He took all his money, put it in cash, and he never put it back in the market. He got scared because he didn't know what he was doing. And I didn't know what I was doing. My very first job, I put money into my company's 401k mutual plan. And the only reason I put money in there is because they were giving me a 3% match.
Yeah.
And that was the litmus test. I mean, not litmus test. That was the push, the poke to get into stock market investing, to get into mutual funds. I didn't know what I was doing. It sounds safe. They tell you the market returns what on average
8%.
8%.
That's what they'll tell you, but they don't tell you the fact that it can be down 20% this year, or it can be down 40% this year, or my goodness, you could have a coronavirus and it can be down quite a bit more. Right?
And it's scary. It's scary, and you will have your winners in the stock market. You'll have the players that will win, and you'll find out who they are. It wasn't your dry cleaners. They didn't win. It wasn't restaurants. Landry's big time here in Houston. They took a hit. Who won during the stock market, during the recession, during the great scamdemic? It was Netflix and Amazon. And why did they win? They won because you had to have a house to watch Netflix. They won because you had to have an address to have your Amazon delivered to you. You know what else won? Apartments. Apartments won because we provide housing. We provide 4 walls and a roof. And you need to have that in life moving forward.
Yeah, you do. And so, it's interesting that you say that, because we talk about the things that we understand and that we know, and that's what those are the things that we invest in, right? And it's utilizing that knowledge that we were able to capitalize, not just for ourselves, but for the investors that invest money with us into those deals. There's so many other idiosyncrasies and nuances in investing in the stock market that actually aren't even technical in nature. It could just be that sentiment has turned this way, even though there may not be a technical reason to do it, and people put money into it. There's things that people pay tremendous valuations for. There was a couple products that IPO'd recently, and the valuations have just gone through the roof, where it just doesn't really make sense, but people put money into it. Whereas, there are some opportunities, and particularly in real estate, where the valuations really make sense, and we're able to take advantage of that.
Yeah, so let's understand a little bit about what we do. My name is Robert Martinez, and I own a company with 4,000 apartment units called Rockstar Capital. And I got started in this business back in 2013. I had a corporate day job, and I got played around with. I had a sales job. I was heavily commission-based, so I was incentivized to make sales calls. Remember, you hear that knocking sound? That's knocking on the door. That's knocking on an opportunity. That's what we were taught, right? You go knock on that door, you find your opportunity, and you make it happen. Well, what happens if your boss comes in and decides that they want to play with your commission, play with your opportunity, cut your opportunity in half, or give that door knocking to somebody else? And that's what happened to me, and I got tired of it. And I went and I found mentorship. I found a real estate club, and I paid $10,000 to get into it. A lot of people do that, and I made the very most of it, because that $10,000 meant the world to me. It was the best $10,000 I ever spent in my life, because I was shown a world of real estate investing. I was shown a world of single family rent houses. I was shown a world of multifamily apartment buildings. And it was the best decision of my life. Fast forward 13 years later, I've got over 6,000 units of apartment experience. I personally own almost 4,000 apartment units. I've done the due diligence. I've done the underwriting. I've done the fundraising. I've done the operations, which is the most important bit in all that. Because if you don't have an operator, you don't have anything. And I like to get better, and I like to find mentors that make me better, right? Look, I'm really good at what I do, and I know that. But I also know, and I'm humble enough that I don't know everything. And I'm trying to get into like a little larger world. I'm trying to expand our portfolio. And I went and I seek mentors. I try to find people that are where I want to be, and maybe even have, a little bit more knowledge on that. I'm super strong in operations, but Sam's a big finance guy. I don't know what Sam does. What I did for 20 years was sales, and now the last 13 years is apartment operations. Sam's a banker.
Yeah, and so when it comes to
how much money do you lend to people?
Oh gosh, in billions.
Billions. Yeah. And how do banks make their money?
Man, we make our money just by that little small spread too. It's actually taking other people's money and just playing a delta game, right? We take money in from the public, or whoever's going to make deposits, which are our liabilities, and we turn them into assets.
You know what? We might do an episode on banks exposed, right? Because we want to make sure everybody understands when you get that low, cheap rate of, 3% for a car loan, 1.9, 4, whatever the number is, your house loan. Sam, let's give them a little sneak peek on this future episode. Tell them how the bank makes their money on that.
So banks are the most highly leveraged business that there is. I mean, we use leverage here in real estate, but we still have to come up with say 25% of the money. Banks don't even have to come up with that. I mean, you can.
Are you listening to that? Say that again, Sam. That was the most important thing of what's been said so far.
Yeah, banks don't even have to come up with that. They actually have lines that they could draw upon where you could be 100%, sometimes even more.
That's called OPM. Yeah, other people's money. Typically the government's money.
Absolutely.
So you borrow the government's money, you pay them a little bit of time, a little bit amount, and you sell it to mom and pop Joe out there.
For a larger spread.
Joe Public for a larger spread.
That's how they make their money.
And then how do deposits work and how you lend money out again?
So deposits, the cheap deposits are your checking accounts and things like that, because the banks aren't paying anything for that. And sometimes, in some cases, they're charging you for it because they're charging you fees and other things associated for using their products and their services, right? But they're taking those funds and they're lending it out to all those people for all those car loans and house loans and things that they lend money for. And so the spread that they make on that money, right, is how the banks actually make money. And so they can.
No, so tell them the little magic secret.
As far as
how many times you can lend the same dollar.
You can lend the same dollar over and over.
Hey, this is a scam right here.
Over and over.
I got my boys in here. I got John and Caleb. Let's say they have, I don't know, $10,000 in their savings. Sam, what do you do if you're a banker with $10,000 of Jonathan's money?
We would take it and lend it out. I'd lend it to Caleb for a lot more money than what I'm paying Jonathan, and that's how we make money.
You would lend $10,000 out to Caleb, right?
Yeah, but I might also lend $10,000 to Jeffrey too. And so,
how many times can the bank do that?
We can lend the money out multiple times as long as we can keep bringing in more money.
Which means he's not telling you. The bank can lend it out 7 to 10 times leverage. Is that right?
Absolutely.
It just depends on their deposits.
Sure.
So they have $1 million in deposits. They can lend out 10 to 1, more or less.
8 to 1, really. That's where you're going.
8 to 1. You already said they bring in $100 million. They can lend out $800 million. And you think that little bit of money, you're like, man, I don't know how the bank makes some money. They're lending it out 8 times. That little spread multiplies times 8. And that's how they're making their money.
They can make a lot of money. But one of the big things I want to talk about, because we do have a great understanding of a lot of these things. PJ just asked a question too right now, getting into specifics of real estate, right? And some of the things that we look at on an ongoing basis. One of the things he wanted to ask was, hey, what's the average time to get a rental unit turned around? He wants to know, really, I think the question is, hey, if I have a unit, how long does it take me to turn that unit?
An apartment unit?
An apartment unit.
That's a great question. It all depends on your experience level. If you're a first timer and you're by yourself, it's going to take you a little while because you don't know who to call to get the unit turned around. And you've never done it. So you don't have an idea what costing is. And you're going to go slow with it because you don't know what paint costs. You don't know what it costs, how many cents per square foot. You don't know what labor costs. You don't know what the flooring costs. You don't know what the furnishing and the fixtures are going to cost. So because of fear, which is really the great equalizer in the world. If you overcome fear, you can get to the next level of life, right? And so what happens, that first turn on your unit, probably going to take you a better part of a month. We were just talking about a deal right now. There's a 40-unit deal out there that one of our students is working on, and half of it is now empty. And he's a little skittish, right? Because he's afraid of I'm thinking, dude, I can get that unit turned in 10 days. Not 30 days, not 60 days, 10 days, because we know exactly what trades to call on. We know how much stuff is going to cost, and we can earmark it that in 10 days, I'm going to pre-lease that unit. It's going to look like this, and I'm going to have it leased out. That's business maturity. It takes a little while to get there. So your first one is always going to be your hardest. You know how the expression, the first million is always the hardest, and then it just comes? That's 1,000% true. The first thing for your first rental, the first time acquiring it, the first time rehabbing it, you've never done it before. So if you don't have a mentor, you're on your own. If you got a mentor like us, and we're going to talk to our students and say, hey, you can have that turn in 10 days. That gives him a peace of mind. That gives him some sleep time. And he's thinking now about maybe even the next deal. He's not freaking out on how am I going to get this unit done?
Yeah. And so, with that too, like you said, we see opportunity, right? Because we know when we go and take over a property, there's going to be a turn aspect to that. Not just worried about one unit. We may have to turn several units, and there's going to be a natural attrition to that too, over a period of time. And when you go into a situation like this, which is now distressed, you have the ability to attack that up front day one and actually get the bulk of that complex upgraded to the standard that you want to operate it at. And so what that allows you to do too is actually get the financials and turn those numbers faster, because you'll be able to you have several options available to you when you do that. You're able to turn the whole property at a much faster pace than what you probably anticipated when you first took the property, when you first contracted for the property.
So before we got that question, and again, this is about you. That's why we stopped our train of thought, because we wanted to get your questions answered. I've got a question here about Grant Cardone. I'm going to answer in a minute next. But you talked about how the banks leverage money, and they think they think they're playing monopoly, right? They think that they're taking advantage of everybody, and it's legal, right? Because banks will loan you money to buy a car, they'll loan you money to buy a house. They won't loan you money though to buy stock.
Not their stock.
Or anybody's stock.
Well, yeah. I mean, you better have a lot to get.
If I wanted to buy Tesla stock, which is like the hot stock, or I want to buy something, a bank won't loan it to me.
No.
Interesting, right? Interesting. They don't loan you on a piece of paper, but they'll loan you on a hard asset like a car which is a depreciating asset, but still an asset. They will loan you on a multifamily asset because that's income producing. But back to that point, they loan you 7-to-1, 8-to-1. The bank thinks you're making a fortune, right? Let me tell you the little secret in apartment investing. And if somebody, I never learned this. My dad was the smartest guy that I knew. He genuinely was. He was smart. He knew how to handle people. He was tough as nails, but he knew how to get the most out of you. And again, he was my first mentor, but he didn't show me this. My professors at Texas A&M didn't show me this. My bosses, when I was selling rotating equipment here in the oil and gas world in Houston, didn't teach this. I learned it from my real estate mentor. In multifamily real estate, $1 of NOI equals $17 of valuation. Now, the bank's talking about 7-to-1. I'm talking about 17-to-1. The reason why I'm sitting up here right now, the reason why I have 4,000 apartment units worth $400 million is because I understand that if I can improve operations, every dollar that I add to the NOI has added me now $17 of valuation. To put into a way that you can understand, a $10 rent bump on a 100-unit property for 12 months divided by the cap rate, and we're going to use 6% in this. That's the how do you define cap rate?
Cap rate is the easiest way that we could define it is if you were going to invest into a property and pay cash for it, that's the return.
That's the rate of return you would make.
Yeah, it's rate of return you should expect on that cash that you.
Which is interesting because rates right now are like 2.5 to 3, well below the 6%. You're like, whoa, I'm printing money, right?
Yeah.
Well, in apartments you are printing money because it's a 17-to-1 ratio. To go back to my example, $10 times 100 units times 12. That's 12,000. What is that? That's right.
Say it again.
So $10 times 100 units, that's 1,000 times 12, that's 12,000 divided by the cap rate of 6. Divide 12,000 divided by 0.06. That's $200,000 of valuation. Bank didn't do that. Bank can't turn $10 into $200,000. Nope. We can in the apartment world. And I've gotten really good at that. And because I've gotten so good, I've been able to raise $100 million of equity because I do one thing really, really well. I know how to take your cash flow, your equity, put it next to mine, and in 3 to 4 years, turn it, double it, triple it in some cases, and give it back to you. That's the magic formula, and that's what we call a cash out refinance event. 13 times have I taken a property where the investors invested with me. 3 to 4 years later, we refinance the property because the magic formula is now said the property is worth $17 more every dollar of added valuation. We reappraise it. We get a new loan against it. We pay off the old loan, and that spread in the middle is tax-free back to the investors. We did that about 40 days ago now on a property we own on the far west side of town. We paid roughly $72,000 a door for it in 2016. We had it reappraised at $112,000 a door 4 years later, and the investors got a check for $4.5 million. As gross returns are over 90% on that deal.
Yeah, 96%.
96% on that deal. That's why we're on stage. That's what we do really well. So that's my lead in. Somebody asked the question, are you a scam like Grant Cardone? I mean, I just gave you an example of something that I do every single day. You know, Grant Cardone is a great promoter, a great branding guy. And in fact, I think he's Forbes magazine's #1 marketer in the country. I actually went to go see him. Sam and I went to go see him about a month and a half ago together. And I went back for a different mastermind 2 weeks ago, because no matter what I know as a operator, I can always learn something else as a marketer, as a promoter. Grant Cardone invests in super class A, nice stuff. My average acquisition is $80,000 a door. When we were there, he was buying one that was costing him $220,000 a door. It's a different market. He's buying something that's choice, that's nearly irreplaceable. Core plus, but super safe. 65% leverage or less for him. Interest only the entire time of the term. He takes all the risk out, but he also takes, when you take risk out, you also take return out. What we do is we buy deals, value add deals, deals that need improvement, deals that are not performing where they could, and we inject capital. We inject capital in the form of human capital, better operations, better software, better management team. We then come in, we'll do a renovation plan to remove all the expenses in that deal, because again, I'm trying to take the expenses down so I can make my NOI go up. I don't have to get it from rents. I can get it from expense management. I try to do that to increase the valuation of the deal. 13 times we've done that, and we've turned almost 100%. In fact, I think 11 of those times it was 100% out. Mm-hmm. The last 2, they were 90 plus. Missed a little bit. COVID hit me. Can't help it. But you know what? My investors still got that money during COVID 40 days ago when they needed it the most. They didn't rely on Papa Trump, to give him a stimulus check, or Congress to stop fighting. They relied on the guy. They got him there. You back the jockey, not the horse. You put your money with someone that you trust. You rely on his team. He's the operator. He's the guy that knows how to turn the lights on and keep them on. 3-4 years later, he returns your capital. So, I don't know if Grant Cardone's a scam. I don't really have an opinion. I think the guy is awesome because I like hearing what he says. It gets me motivated. I learned something from him. But I'm not competing with Grant Cardone because I don't think Grant Cardone can do what I do. He's not my competition. And in 10 years, we'll find out where Grant Cardone is, and we'll find out where I'm at. I can tell you 13 years ago is when I got started. I have a documented track record. Today, I've got 4,000 apartment units. I raised $100 million in capital over the span of 9 years. I didn't do it in 6 months like Grant did because I don't have his. And it's going to be a great problem to have, but it's a slow burn. It's a slow burn. I've got my skins in the water to prove who we are. But Grant's an amazing guy. I mean, for what he does, I think he's really good at it.
Yeah, I mean, it is a little bit different model too. One of the bigger things that's really different with us is we're true owner operators. So both Robert and I put our own money into our own deals, and we have 118 people that work here at Rockstar Capital that are actually running the deals. So we actually dig through all the deals, all the numbers, everything every month. Yesterday we uploaded all of our numbers because we show our numbers monthly to all of our investors. We're fairly transparent. So, I mean, really, you could reconcile to your heart's content with everything that we give on a monthly basis. And that's really some of the big differences between Grant and us. I mean, the owner-operator aspect of it versus being just a syndicator, which there are a lot of great syndicators out there. But the fact that we're in this stuff, we're actually in the weeds every day associated with our deals. It's one of the real major differentiating factors between us and somebody like Grant. Jenna asked a unique question that he answers a lot too, because she just said, hey, for someone wanting to start, what's the number of doors you would recommend starting with?
That's a great question. Listen, and there's no right answer at this. I can tell you that in order to afford a property manager so that you don't have to do it yourself every single day, you need around 40 to 50 units. If you want to have a full-time maintenance man, so you're not on Craigslist looking for somebody to help you, you need anywhere from 80 to 100 units. I will tell you, though, that if you buy a 7-unit deal, you need 5 units or more to qualify as multifamily. If you buy a 10-unit deal, a 12-unit deal, you can do it yourself. Now, you're kind of buying a job a little bit, but what you're going to do is you're going to learn the process. When I got started back in 2007, I actually quit my day job. I was really good. I was making 6 figures. I was doing really well, but I wanted to learn multifamily. And I walked away from my day job, selling in the oil and gas market, and I sat in that leasing chair. I was not the property manager. I was not the assistant manager. I was just sitting there learning the business. I leased apartments. I understood I learned the make-ready process. I got lied to by the residents when they said they were going to pay and they didn't pay. I understood the importance of screening. I learned how to knock on doors because it was very similar to what I had to do. And I got really good at it. So later, as I grew my portfolio, as I grew my management company, because again, we are owner operators, it's very little that gets past me. It's very little that I haven't seen already. If you get a manager, if you get a lead maintenance, they're there to help you, but they're not there to replace you. They're there to supplement you. You need to learn the lessons. You need to learn. Don't rely on somebody, because if they were good enough to own this apartment complex, then they would be you. But instead, they are the property manager. They're the maintenance guy. They're in a different skill set. They've got a great skill set. I'm not great with a hammer, but I'm pretty good with numbers. I know how to speak and present myself. I understand the magic formula. As such, I can go get a multi-million-dollar loan. Everybody's different. Do not rely on them. You have to rely on yourself. The bank gave you the loan. Always remember that if you're going to buy your own deal. The bank gave you the loan, which means it's probably recourse. That means your kid's neck is on the line with you. That means your family's money is on the line with you. You're pretty much, if you're ready to do this, you're going to get the most out of yourself when you know there's a multi-million-dollar loan hanging on your neck. I know it got the most out of me when I got started. My very first deal was $2.2 million on my neck, and I was scared. I was really scared. That was more money than I had. I maybe had a net worth around $800K. That was a $2 million loan. Scary, because I kept thinking of worst case scenario. I kept thinking of what ifs, what's going to happen. But you know what? If you trust in yourself and you show up every single day and you commit and you learn the lessons that you need to learn, really wasn't scary anymore. Now I'm about to take on how much is the loan we're going to do?
$29 million.
I'm about to do a $29 million loan, recourse on my neck. Not that I need it, but it makes the deal a little juicier for my investors. It'll probably get my best effort out of me, and it'll make the exit that much better because I'll be borrowing less. Don't need it. The deal we're looking at qualifies. It's cash flows day one, but I'm there about my investor. I'm there about getting the best return. I've got the best team I've ever had, so I'm willing to gamble the dice a little bit. I think that I can survive this. I mean, we're one of the only management companies in town that actually distributed back to their investors during COVID.
Yeah, and I don't want to gloss over the fact about that too. When we sign the note, recourse personally to ourselves, you have to understand that's also a very large difference between owner operators and a lot of syndicators. Somebody who's willing to personally sign recourse on the note on behalf of their investors, meaning for their investors, the investors are getting the benefit of that person doing that, and because of that, their returns are actually going up associated with the loan. Right. Jerome just asked real quick about this is how does your structure work and when do distributions happen? So he wants to know, hey, how often do we distribute? We distribute quarterly. So our distributions go out every quarter. We didn't stop them during COVID-19 because we had cash flow producing assets, right? That would continue to produce for us and for our investors because people need a place to live, like what we described. But the structure of it too is we have an LP structure. And so we go out and we raise funds when we're going to look for a deal. We put the deal together. We put the financing together. We actually put the teams together to go out and operate and run those properties. And our investors in the deals are completely passive. They get obviously updated monthly with the numbers, and then they love getting their quarterly checks. And that's how the structure works for them. Let's see.
Let me tell you about passive investing. You're thinking, well, what should I invest with you? Should I consider? Let me tell you this. Amazon survived and Netflix survived. But are they really necessities? Did you really have to have Netflix? I mean, if you had to, you could cut Netflix. In fact, a lot of people are cutting Netflix right now because they aired a couple programs that people don't agree with. So you don't have to have it. You don't have to have Amazon. You don't have to buy stuff. What you do have to have, though, is a roof over your head. Apartments are indestructible. I knew that COVID wasn't what it was going to be and that we were going to get out of it when I saw the shares of Netflix and Amazon go up. Because people don't need that. I also saw our apartment rents getting paid. Now, were they off a little bit? Sure, they're a little off a little bit. Maybe we're at 96% of the original collection, but we'll get it back. I'm not worried about it. People still need to pay. Most people out there are going to pay their rent or they're going to get evicted at some point in some time. So I'm not really worried about it. But from a passive standpoint, what you do with us is that you were to partner with me side by side. This is how it works. In a 7 to 10 year horizon, I'm going to double, triple, quadruple your money back. And along the way, I'm going to pay you for cash flow.
And that's big. Don't forget that.
Yeah, you're going to get paid
the ways. Amazon. You mentioned Amazon and Netflix. And one of those things that they don't do, they don't pay cash flow. For you to be able to recognize those gains, you actually have to sell your position.
Yeah.
So if you are up because you made money over this time frame with Amazon or Netflix, the only way that you actually truly benefit from that is if you sell it.
Absolutely.
You're going to have to exit the position.
So in that 7 to 2 horizon, we're going to pay you to wait during quarterly distributions for our investors. We did over $1 million last quarter, $1.1 million, $1.2 million. In the event that we have a refinance event, we're going to pay you for the success that we just did. We just gave back $4.5 million on that part, tax-free. Took a property that we paid $20 million for, turned it into $30 million. Those investors got that cash out, and they still own it. Mm-hmm. They still own that deal. They got almost all their cash out, and they still own that deal. So they're going to continue to take cash flow until the day that we sell for a bigger profit, which is on the last time we sold a deal, we returned 693% gross to our investors after a 7-year horizon. That's darn near 97, 98% annual return. If you take that route, take 693 divided by 7, you're almost at 100% a year. That's what we did. But you're going to get that cash flow throughout that entire time. And if I give you a big amount of cash back in a refinance event, what are you going to do? You're going to give it right back to me. And you're going to say, hey, I loved it. Go do it again. And that's how you build your net worth. Last night, Sunday Night Football was on, and I had a funny little meme there that talked about, are you watching? Really what I was saying is, are you making money? Are you winning? Because last night, I don't remember who played. I didn't watch the game. I don't remember the score. But it doesn't matter because me and my investors were winning. We're winning because our rent scare are getting paid. We're winning because they got a great operational team running their investments, and they're getting quarterly cash flow. We did not interrupt during COVID. We kept our quarterly numbers going, and that's what I love about the rental real estate market. This isn't commercial office buildings. This isn't, retail centers. You have to live somewhere. You got to be able to drink something. You got to be able to breathe something, and you got to be able to put your head somewhere. And that's where I love apartments. I've got some great questions here. What do you got there?
Let's see.
Do you like College Station for apartment investing? I like College Station. I like Texas A&M. I'm hoping to catch a football game soon.
Saturday. They play Saturday.
Are they playing this Saturday?
Yeah, they play this Saturday.
You see, my focus is in A&M. I'm a bad Aggie now because my focus is my world, my life. It's either my babies or it's apartment or it's a Rockstar Capital. Those are my focus. I've lost my love for A&M and football because it doesn't do anything for me. Except when I'm sitting there and I'm enjoying the game, I can buy whatever I want. If they want an extra big mug or a Coke, or they want a stupid bear, whatever, I'm going to get it for them because I can. But I've earned that flexibility. I invested in myself years ago, and now I'm here and I've taken care of my investors. Since 2011, we've raised $100 million of your money of investor capital, and guess what? I returned $100 million in that same time frame, and I did it through distributions, and I did it through these big 13 cash out refinance events. So to answer your question, College Station is one of those markets where when I was there in school 20 years ago, it was being overbuilt, and they said don't build there. But then the population kept growing and growing and growing. And right now there's scary times, and students aren't coming back, and they're distance learning or whatever. Listen, fear is a powerful thing, and it will push you in one direction or it'll push you in another direction. We don't do student housing, so I'm not faced with this conversation. I think there'll be some great deals that have come around. I think some people are over leveraged. Anybody that bought a deal in the last 24 months is probably suffering a little bit because there probably was a little bit of reduction in their monthly income. So debt service is a little scary for them. I think you'll see some great deals Q2 next year. But as far as, investing in College Station, I think it just, if you're a good operator, you're going to be a good operator. But rents are going to come down because demand's going to be off a little bit. But demand will increase. That's the way the game's played. There's a reason why there's billions and billions of dollars of student loans, because they've convinced us that college is important. And I'm not going to say that college isn't important, but do you have to go to a big university? Can you do it distance learning? Yeah, you can. And if you can't do distance learning, it's going to change. COVID disrupted the norm. People aren't going to basketball games right now. A lot of political stuff is being said. People aren't going to sporting events. People are going to start reevaluating their priorities in life. They're going to start reevaluating, do I want to pay, I don't know, if I go to an A&M game with me and my kids, it's going to cost me $1.50 a ticket, maybe $200, $300 a ticket. And I'm going to ask myself, do I really want to do that? You may find other priorities in life. I did along the time. And COVID like that challenges your behaviors. We're going to stop going to sporting events like we used to because they're just overpriced, right? But we got into condition and they just kept going. So I think student housing is in for a little bit of a ride. I do believe that you can overcome fear and make money at it, but I think you need to wait and let the dust settle out for a little bit.
Yeah, if you look across the country, there's a net migration away from the schools right now. We don't know if it's temporary yet or not. It appears right now that it will be, and that a lot of students will be coming back, in particular, maybe even as early as next semester. But it could be a year that they're having to wait before this actually turns back to some kind of normal status. I know a lot of the student housing operators out there, even during the summer. The summers are where they do a massive amount of rehab on their properties and getting them ready. Because it was during COVID-19, a lot of them delayed that, not knowing whether or not they were going to have students coming back. And so some of these properties could be in deferred maintenance situations, even for another year. You just have to really be careful with the student housing right now, because it's an area, it's one of the few areas I would say that is weakness in the multifamily realm. You probably just got to be careful is the easiest way to say that. So,
and student housing is a different game too, right? Because what happens at the end of the semester, at the end of the school year, people leave.
Sure.
The key to making money in the apartment world is renewals. You want people to renew. You don't want them to leave. So if the business model is like a hotel where they're going to be checking out every year, every 9 months, you're not going to make as much money. You're just not. How can you? Because you have to spend $3,000 to $4,000 to get it ready every single time. But if they stay there, you're going to make more money. Every time they move out in our world, it costs us $50,000 of valuation. Every time that they stay, we make $50,000 valuation. That's because it costs around $3,000 to get the unit ready. to take $3,000 divided by the cap rate, you've made around $50,000 plus or minus. So I don't know. I'm not a big fan. I'm a big fan of student housing. I like what we do in the value add space. I like workforce housing.
Mm-hmm.
A couple questions here. Skyler said he wants to give him a shout out. Hey, Skyler, thanks for joining us. Hey, send me a question though, man. I mean, you're kind of anonymous right now. How can I help you? Let's see. Jenna said, do we have any in-house designers who design for your value and remodels? We don't have any in-house designers. We have a marketing group that we work with. We have a designer outside that we're beginning to work with. But hey, if you're interested, send me an email at info@theapartmentrockstar.com and we'll get that answered. And maybe you can come in and make a bid for us. Sam, how does our structure look? And tell me a little bit about quarterly distributions.
So quarterly distributions happen every quarter with our properties. From a structure standpoint of how we actually structure our deals, our deals are actually structured really simple, and we just do a straight override on our deals. So our override is around 22%. That's what we charge.
Grant Cardone's at 65, right?
Well, he does a 65-35.
Yeah.
So we do a 78-22.
Yeah.
All right. So obviously, from a perspective of getting more value for your dollar in that particular scenario, but at the same time too, it's a straight override. And then we split everything associated with it 78-22 when we do the property. We do quarterly distributions every quarter.
And we don't miss.
We don't miss, right? So
not even during COVID, not even the world scamdemic slowed Rockstar Capital down.
Yeah. One of the other things that was just asked is, what do you recommend for those who are stuck in expensive markets like Miami? And it's kind of funny that you say that too, because, you can have expensive markets and you can still do really well there. Workforce housing, one of the things that we really hone in on really is in all markets. So it's really picking and choosing where that spot is and what you're able to provide. So, like the example that you used earlier on Grant was we're paying $80,000 a door for a property that we're purchasing right now, and he's buying one for $220,000 a door. And if you look at the difference really is going to be the rents. We may be getting, going into it, our average rents for that $80,000 a year property or $80,000 a unit property are probably $835 per door. That's what we're getting monthly rent. At the $220,000 unit, I think he said he was getting what, $1,800 or $1,900. So it's obviously a lot more that he's getting in rent associated with that. One of the reasons we like workforce housing though is because
it's a bell curve.
Yeah. There's a lot more people there, right? There's a lot more people that need that type of product. And there's going to be a lot of people that need that type of product, even in the expensive markets. And so even though the pricing may change, the workforce housing is going to have a larger group of people, and you just need to find where those opportunities are. So it may not be that you have to go buy a core plus asset. You can probably go find a B plus, B type asset, but the rents are going to be very different between those two.
I would say too that if you're in Miami or somewhere like I don't know, Grant Cardone's in Malibu right now, but he lives in Miami. I was just there in Miami. I met my friend Jeffrey earlier. He's here visiting us. I tell you what, man, Miami is beautiful. It's beautiful, and it creates demand. It is absolutely beautiful, just like California is beautiful, and it creates demand. I think number one, when you enter any market, you need to come with sufficient reserves. The reason why we're able to make distributions during COVID-19 is that the guy on my left here, he came in and joined our company at the beginning of 19, took an analysis of our stuff, and being the banker, I'm more the riverboat gambler. I'm the guy that's going to say yes and try to figure it out. Sam's the guy to kind of like balance me out and said, hey, we don't have enough reserves there in case of an event. And that event could have been anything. It could have been property taxes. I mean, they've been on the rise here in Houston. I think we've got them under control now, but there was some crazy numbers going around. Insurance is the next big one right now that's coming around. They want to use COVID as an excuse, and so they're going to want to pop rates when I don't know what COVID destroyed, except that it kept us inside our houses. Mm-hmm. It kept us from spending money because we were afraid.
Hurricane storms,
but also the unforeseen events. Today, I'm very excited that most of our deals have anywhere from 6 months to even greater of reserves. So I tell you that in Miami, you need to have reserves just like you would in any market. That's number one. Now, if you're in a situation where, okay, great, I don't have enough reserves, what can I do now? Whatever it takes to hold on. Because assets like in Miami, and I don't care if you're workforce housing, I don't care if you have the class core stuff that Grant's buying, you want to hold on to that stuff. because stuff like that's going to go up. We will pass through it. I'm hearing New York, they're having some, hurt in the rental markets there, Manhattan, whatever, stuff's, that's vacant. Guess what? No one's going to lose anything. They're going to hold it because they know what that stuff's worth. They know it's going to come back. New York is the hub of business in this country. People go to New York. I'm trying to go to New York right now. I want to go and finish some commitments that we have there that were negotiated before COVID. I just having to come around and fantastic business opportunities, but I can't get there because I'm kind of worried about the riots. I'm afraid something's going to happen. So I want to wait until COVID dies down a little bit, even though I don't think anybody's dying like they used to, or, I think it's a little slowed down a lot. I'm still worried. So I don't go, but eventually you will go. Now, nobody was flying the airlines. Now I've probably taken 4 flights in the last 2 months. I'm fine. I'm here. I didn't die. I'm surviving. I didn't get
the planes
COVID.
were full.
And the planes are, it's interesting. The planes are getting full, but yet we're supposed to social distance and wear the suit mask. But yet I got a guy next to me and I got a guy behind me. They're selling out, So how bad is that? You just have to question these things. So my back to where I was going with that is that I think you need to hold on to these assets. If it means you take on a partner, if it means you do an equity raise, it means you do something, hold on because they will bounce back.
Yeah. And some specifics here. Drum just asked, what cut does Rockstar Capital take on management?
All right. So the industry standard is 3% for property management fee. Then there's an asset management fee of 2%. So 5% combined is what typically the revenue needs to be applied towards that. So the monthly revenue, let's say it's $100,000, the management company will apply 5% to that. $3,000 for property management, $2,000 for asset fee. That is an industry standard. So Rockstar is within the industry standard. Some are a little higher, some are a little lower, but 5% is what I've always been told.
Yeah, 5% is about normal too. I mean, you'll see sometimes, depending on the situation, like if you have a heavy lease up, you may have some management company said, well, yeah, we'll come in here, we'll help you with your lease up, but they're going to probably charge you a fee, a larger fee up front, and they may even charge you a larger management fee for that on some ongoing basis. And it could be that they want a longer contract because of that too. Yeah. It's just different circumstances, but 5% is an industry standard.
Yeah. And some companies will charge you a renovation fee. We don't charge a renovation fee. Yeah. Those kind of things. We try to operate as much as we can.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got. Oh, this is a very specific question here.
Well, let's do some toss-ups.
Okay.
How do you find or how do you choose a new market? Now, that's really interesting. I never buy a market that I don't think that I can cluster there and buy 1,000 units in. Simple as that. So what does that mean? Well, I like a market where the schools are good. I like good schools because families follow good schools. And if families follow good schools, typically a lot of those families, 50% of the people here in Houston are renters. So within every family, there's probably more than one brother and more than one sister. There's a good chance that if I take care of them, they're going to want to stay there. They're going to want to keep going to that same elementary or high school or junior high or whatever it is. So the better the reputation, I like to go to those submarkets, the suburbs that have the best schools. Then I look at visibility and location. If I'm tucked in the back of a neighborhood, it's going to cost me dollars in marketing to fix that. If I'm on a busy road, like the deal we're about to buy on November 1st, 25,000, 30,000 cars a day, that's marketing I don't have to pay for. Now, I will still have a marketing budget, but it won't be as large if I have all this drive-by traffic. Now I need to make my property look good. I got to have a renovation shown from the outside. The roof's got to be clean. The siding needs to be replaced or cleaned. The fencing needs to be taken care of. Flags, color, do things to attract people in, right? So those are some of the things on the market. What else? Oh, I like a good submarket where there's been rent growth the last 5 years. I don't want to be in an area that is suffering. And if I do, I want to pay the appropriate price for that. But I want to be where everybody's happy. Because if I pick a market, I'm going to be the market leader. I know that. That's the team we do. We will be above market. But I don't want to be the single oasis in a sea of junk. I don't want that. I want everybody winning. Because everybody winning, guess what? They get complacent. And they don't try to take your people because everybody's winning. It's when times get desperate, when people get they get innovative and they get creative, and if they get a little more competitive because they're trying to stay afloat. That's what happened during the recession. My real estate career was born in 07, 08, right in the prime of recession. And luckily I had a sales background, commission based. So I knew how to kill what I was going to eat at night. I took that mentality into the recession. I said, hey, we've got to do this. We've got to get our sales team ready to go. We got to close everybody that comes in. We've got to take. And back then there was no PPP loans for small business. There was no additional rental assistance for for our tenants, we were on our own. So it was kill or be killed. We put a few people into the ground. And that's kind of how I grew my real estate career, is having to put people into the ground. I'm ready for this scamdemic. I mean, this is nothing to me. There's so much government aid everywhere and what have you. But you want to be in those kind of submarkets. I want to be in the submarkets where there's high rental growth, and there has been rental growth. So I can come in there and kind of mix in, do my thing. And when I outperform the market, no one's really going to notice.
I would add to that too, from an analytics standpoint, some of the things that we look at, they actually attribute or contribute to that high rental growth is you have population increase and you have projected population increase. So you're performing out to actually have more people living there over some period of time. We typically look out at least the first 5 years to make sure we have some increase in growth of population. But really the big one too is job growth. We want to know that there's job growth in that submarket, because as jobs are brought in, so do people. People will follow the jobs, and they will actually be making money, and that actually it provides a health to the local economy there.
And there's been a great migration to Texas and to Florida and to Arizona, right? And they're coming from these states that are typically blue and have state income taxes and have very liberal governments, and there's a lot of overspending or budget crisis issues. People are escaping that, and they're coming to Texas, and they're coming to Florida, and they're coming to Arizona. And what does that mean for us? That means job growth. That means higher rents, higher wages. Now, is it more expensive to live in Houston today than what it was 20 years ago when I moved here? Than what it was 10 years ago when I moved here? Absolutely, because there's more people coming. Supply and demand, supply and demand. It's been the rule of life forever. If you have it, people are willing to pay. If not, then they won't.
Yeah, and so when you're looking at all those things, right, that's all those things that contribute to the things that you were talking about, where you have rental growth that grows in that area. And it's not just that one property, it could be all the submarket properties around you too. But some of the other things too, when we're looking at specific markets that way, are all those things that you described, right? It's just, you want to know that you have job growth, you have population growth, you want to know that the economy is healthy in that particular area, and a lot of those things will contribute to that. You're going to want to know you have visibility from whatever property you're looking for in that market. You're going to want to know you have good schools. There's just a lot of things that we look at to make sure that an acquisition will be acceptable under our own platform.
And we use the best tools. We use CoStar.
We do.
I mean, that costs us what, $40,000 a year?
A little bit more.
A little bit. I didn't know that. A little bit more money. The better you pay for information, because information is key. Right. I like watching a lot of real estate shows. Over the weekend, I saw Wall Street and Boiler Room. I got really excited. And the key to those movies was information. If they had information, they can make the right deal. I love watching a show on Showtime called Billions. That's our show that we watch. And in that show, it's all about information. You got to have the right information. You got to be able to make the right decisions. If you don't have the right information, you don't know where to expand to. You don't know what strategy to take.
Yeah, it gives you that confidence to actually pull the trigger and do a deal. And, we just got a question too from Ralph, who says, hey, are there any books or resources to gain more information?
Well, the number one resource you should be going to is the apartmentrockstar.com.
That's right.
Because in the apartmentrockstar.com, you're going to find everything I've ever put out is going to be on there. There'll be a free 30-minute how does apartment investing work. Then you could even find me on Instagram, which I put out a ton of video and micros. On YouTube, we have webinar after webinar. This webinar is going to get loaded up so people can watch it as well. There's a lot of free information out there. So don't pay immediately until you really know that this is where you want to go. There are a lot of free resources. The first book that got me started was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. If you've never read that book, you should read it, and you get a mindset shift, because your success in this has to do with what's going on here. Because you're going to hear a lot of negativity from mom and dad. I remember when I went to A&M, I have an engineering degree, and I went to go work as a salesman, as an account executive in the oil and gas market. And my dad thought, I swear to you, he thought I was like knocking on doors and selling vacuum cleaners and encyclopedias. He was actually really upset that I had paid, back then it was only $30,000. I had $30,000 in student loans debt to get an engineering degree only to become a salesman. But everybody knows sales guys is where you make your money. Bankers, geez, I didn't know what bankers make. This guy educated me when he joined us, what bankers make in the world. But I think you want to focus on free education first before you go get paid education. I think Richest Man in Babylon is another great book, because it's all about mindset. Mom and dad are gonna shit on you. They're gonna tell you you're doing it wrong. Your friends who are not doing what you're doing are going to piss on you. That's what they're going to do because you make them uncomfortable about what they're doing. I remember I grew up in when I first moved to Houston. I got our first house. I was in a suburb, and I was at the end of a cul-de-sac lot, and everybody did the same thing. And we'd have barbecues on Sunday. The moment you do something different, the conversation changes because you're now being exposed to things that nobody else there is being exposed to, and you can't relate. It's how our friendship formed. I met Sam at church, and of course, being a banker, bankers see deals. They see deals left and right, and I'm learning. And Sam and I found each other, and we had like a bromance started. Right? We've even been to Disney World together, which tells you where our relationship is with our children. There's a great picture of us on the it's a small world, right?
Winnie the Pooh.
Is it Winnie the Pooh? But you want to go and network with like-minded people. And that's how you're going to get success. You won't learn anything out of a book. What you're going to learn is conversations. You're going to learn from networking. You're going to learn from webinars like this. You're going to learn from meetup events when we can have meetup events, which, by the way, we have a meetup event this Friday at our Rockstar Capital office for accredited investors. Come on in, check out our new digs. We'll have a deal to present to you to see if you're interested in investing with us. But you want to network. You want to get around people that want the same thing. So webinars, meetups, if you want to join a real estate club, that's another resource because everybody there is paid to want the same thing, to be taught and learned and mentored. And when you get around people like that, it changes the mindset. The conversations change. The top 5 people in your world, the day before you get invested in real estate and you start learning, are not going to be the same 5 people 3 years later because the conversations have changed. They don't interest you as much. And you start to gravitate toward those people where the conversation is what you live and breathe every single day.
Yeah. And I mean, I would reiterate the apartmentrockstar.com because, it really is. There's just a wealth of information out there, guys. And one of the terms we always use is before you invest in anything, invest in yourself, right? If you can take the time to educate yourself and educate yourself on the opportunities that are out there for you and as an investor, right? It allows you to make better decisions going forward. Obviously, there's a lot of people that will learn it and learn the amount of work that it actually does take. I mean, we have 118 people that help us run the 4,000 units that we have. It takes a lot of work to do that. It really does. And there are a lot of people that are specialists in their areas from which we've employed them. And so to start it out yourself, it can be really daunting. And so to have as much education as possible before you do it, it will just give you that much more confidence before you start.
Now, so we got about 5 minutes left. This is great time for Q&A. This is where you learn, right? Because typically I'm busy. I don't have time to pick up every single phone call or answer every single text message or email. But this is dedicated time that I've given, an hour on Mondays, to help answer any questions you have to get you started. Take advantage of that. Take advantage of a guy that's up here that has $400 million in assets. Take advantage of a guy that's lent out over $1 billion in multifamily real estate. Take advantage, ask your finance questions, ask your operational questions. There's been some great questions, but don't miss your chance, right? Because if you don't ask, you're never going to know the answer. And something's going to happen, life's going to happen, and you're going to get sidetracked a little bit. But what if you would have gotten that answer? You could have taken the next action step and done something instead of getting sidetracked or derailed by something.
Yeah. And so this is the time for that, like what you're talking about. So, if anything, I could say, the uncertainty that's out there too. I mean, you're going to have uncertainty no matter what. There is risk in every deal we do. I mean, there's a risk for us going outside right now because of the storm. I mean, we can see outside right now, and it's all those things that are uncertain. But, there are several things that we are certain of. And it's the fact that everybody's going to have a place to live, right? Those 4 walls, right? And the roof over your head. And if half the people that live in our immediate area are renters, they are going to find a place that they're going to pay for to rent from somebody. And we know that we have the ability to go and find those areas and turn them into desirable locations where people want to rent.
Absolutely. I mean, there's not any risk if you mitigate the risk. Do I worry about a fire in my complexes? I don't want a fire, but I take preventative measures. I have little fire suppressant systems that are underneath the vent hood that will prevent the stove from catching on fire, which is the number one source. I have smoke alarms in all the rooms. I also have proper insurance. in case of a hurricane, I have the same kind of insurance that'll cover me, and I have ample reserves. So when you get into something, just make sure you have something to backstop you. And I also think I'm a pretty good operator with a pretty good team around me. So we're going to make the right decisions. But, since I don't have any other questions, I want to encourage you to continue your education. Number one, find the Apartment Rockstar, because on there you'll find Apartment Rockstar Academy. And these are specialized videos and courses that we have created from my 13 years of experience, 17 City State National Apartment Association awards, and the country's only 2-time National Owner of the Year. I'm the only guy in the country that can say that. And I'm sitting here in a video teaching you what I know. If you want one-on-one mentoring, where you want to maybe buy your first apartment deal, but you want to make sure you get it done right, you want to work with Sam, you want to work with me, you want to work with the rest of our operational team to help you find the right deal, we have one-on-one coaching. But if you want to invest with us, we have an opportunity for you right now. It's a property called City Crossing Apartments that we put in the contract less than 30 days ago. We've completed our due diligence stage, and we are now in the financing stage. We are there butting heads with the finance guys. And guess what? Every time we get on the call, it's always a good call. They're wanting to loan us more and more money. He's getting excited. I mean, if he had like a little antenna, they'd be like poofing up, because he gets super excited whenever we talk dollars, because that's his world. My world is the apartment world. I like operations. I like trying to stay full, trying to figure out a better mousetrap. Sam likes to put the deals together and make them work, because all the money you make in real estate happens when you close. What price did you pay? What terms and financing did you get? And where is it located? So it's very, very important. The deal we have, Sam, tell me a little bit about the deal we have.
Yeah, so the deal is 458 units on the east side of town. And I tell you what, it is a prime location for us, because it was run by a group based out of Atlanta, right? This was their last asset that they had in Texas, but they put a lot of money into it over the last several years. Yeah. But they probably didn't think about where they were putting all the money to get the biggest bang for their buck. We're going to be able to go in there, and we've already proven through doing our due diligence that they've left money on the table. We've found just in the difference between the lease file audit that we've done, the leases that they have versus what they're being charged.
They've left almost $9,000.
They've left. No, it was close to. It ended up being about $1.3 million in value that we found day one, right when we start.
And this is crazy. That $1.3 million comes from, again, I don't remember what it was. It was $8,000 or $9,000 of charges that are in the lease files that are legally obligated to pay, did not make it to the scheduled rent in the rent roll. And if you multiply that times 12 and divide it by the cap rate of 6, it was how much?
$1.3 million.
$1.3 million walking, just coming in, taking over, and realizing that, hey, they're not charging back. On top of that, we saw a ton of pets. I love pet parks and dog parks, because it's a great opportunity for me to find out who has a pet and who hasn't paid their pet deposit and who is not paying a pet fee. Because again, if I said to you, most people have a pet, and if I can make $10 rent fee per pet, that's like getting a rent bump. That pet may be worth $200,000 to me, but because it's not being properly accounted for, you're not taking advantage of what's in front of you. I don't like leaving anything on the table. I never do. I never liked sharing my toys when I was a kid. I don't like people touching myself sometimes. I sure as heck don't like leaving $1.3 million on the table. If it's there, I'm going to get it for us.
Yeah. And so, I mean, there's a lot of things that we found. There's what we call a lot of meat on the bone in the industry. This particular property has a lot of meat on the bone, and the investors that are joining us in this deal, they're all going to benefit from that. We're really excited about this opportunity, and you can find out more about it by going to rockstarcapital.com
and signing up as an investor. And you'll get an email from Jonathan, our head of investor relations, and you'll get a little introductory email. And then you'll get a chance to access the data. We've done webinars just like this. You'll see the full due diligence video that we just launched, which is on YouTube right now. And you'll be able to ask us questions and see if this is the right investment for you. It is for accredited investors only. Minimum investment is $100,000, but you'll probably put the maximum of 2.5, which is okay. I'm okay taking that. I have $400,000 of my personal money in it. My family, my kids, they got $300,000 of their personal money in it. $700,000 of my family's money is in that deal. And I'm probably going to sign recourse debt so I can get the best debt terms for you guys. It's going to be a nice deal. In a 7 to 10 year horizon, will pay you to be in this deal and return 300% of your money back, 3x return in a 7 to 10 year horizon.
Yeah, just a really exciting opportunity, an exciting time for everybody here.
I think we're out of question, but hey, everybody, thank you for joining us today. It was fun. This is episode number 2 of our Multifamily Monday. Please, if you have deals you want us to underwrite with you, if you have deals you want to talk about with us, or you just want to get your real estate career started, please send us a question or show up next week and ask it live. Hey, we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.